So for more on the life and legacy of Colin Powell, we now welcome Joel Rubin, the Executive Director of the American Jewish Congress and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, and he joins us from Maryland. Joel, thank you so much for your time on this day, and tributes are pouring in for Colin Powell. Relatives say they've lost a loving family man and a great American. You worked with him. What was he like as a boss? Share some of the insights you remember from behind the scenes.
Thanks, Benita. And yes, he was a citizen soldier. He was a true diplomat and an American hero. When I served in the State Department early in my career, he was a dominant presence at the department as our secretary. He would walk the halls. I'll never forget one time at a Christmas party that we were having, and he just came from behind me and put his hand on my shoulder very firmly, and with a big laugh, just was very welcoming and engaging with the team at State. And he was serious, but he was a gentleman and someone that the American people, and certainly those of us who work in Washington, are going to miss.
A trailblazer on so many levels, of course, Joel, the first black U.S. Secretary of State. Talk us through some of the highlights of his career and the legacy he leaves right now.
So you're pointing to something that is incredibly important today, is to have leaders who are really barrier breakers and role models for all of us. And he did that at an early age. In fact, he had a doctrine named after him, a military doctrine known as the Powell Doctrine, that he employed in the Gulf War back in 1991, where he decided, because of his experience as a soldier in Vietnam, that the United States should never engage in a war unless we could win, and win by deploying overwhelming force. And that was his doctrine. It was employed in the Gulf War. It was successful. And he really shaped a whole legacy of thinkers about America's role in the world and how to make sure that we are focused and smart and strategic in the way that we execute our foreign policy.
So talk us through his relationship with Israel during his tenure as Secretary of State.
It was a really remarkable period. When I was at the department and he was the leader, we had a lot happening in the region. Of course, we invaded Iraq, and while he was critical of that in years that went after, he was very much the loyal soldier, and he led the department through those rocky periods, while also making sure that we would have strong relations with Israel. In one moment, I served on the Egypt desk. He fought very hard for our aid to Egypt to continue, to make sure that the relationship between Israel and Egypt was strong. He was always paying attention to the details, organized summits with the Jordanians as well, and at Taba to try to make sure that we could have the kinds of imprint as Americans on peacemaking in the Middle East. And as the pictures show, he was always very much active and engaged, particularly during that period of after 9/11 and building relations with partners against terrorists while we were in two major combat theaters in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Thank you so much. We so appreciate your insights and sharing your memories as well. Joel Rubin, the Executive Director of the American Jewish Congress and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, speaking to us from Maryland. Thank you again.